I have material from this book that I'd like to share with you. What?
I will try to sneeze.
Oh, poor guy. And this is volume 1 of chapter 38. There is a parades theme in this one, but I'm going to save that for the last one for you. So the first two are like that. And then I realized, wait a minute, Tom is here. He should be taking pictures of my camera. What am I thinking? So I'm going to do that. Because I always do that. It's like, oh, we're back together. We can take pictures of each other. And that should be, oh, wait. I know that this thing will make a noise. Get the buzzer off.
Right.
Get the, oh, no, because it's like, oh my gosh, you're taking pictures and starting to. Uh-oh, now you said take pictures. Anyway, so I was going to share with you 3 from this book called Chapter 38. And it's from performance art shows. There were a bunch of them over the years. For a few years ago. Actually, I'm working on Chapter 48 right now. It's going to be out before September of Chicago shows from like 12 years of them or stuff. And that'll hopefully be out before I go to Chicago in September. And I'm telling you way too much. So I'm going to share 3 poems from this one. And this first one is called And I'm Wondering. And I'm wondering if there's something chemical that brings people together, something that brings people to their knees, something that sucks them in. And I'm wondering if you're sensing what I'm sensing. Is it just me? Am I making this all up in my head? Or when I glance up and catch your eyes, well, are you actually looking at me? Mm-hmm. And I'm wondering if it could work out this time, if we'd have one of those relationships that no one ever doubts, especially us, because we know we'll always be in love. And I'm wondering if you'd find my neurotic pet peeves charming, like how I hate it when someone touches my belly because I'm so self-conscious. And I'm wondering why you had to tell me when we happened to be sitting next to each other that the fact that our legs were almost touching was making your heart race. And I'm wondering why I felt the need to take your cigarette and inhale, exhale, while the filter was still warm from your lips there just seconds before. And I'm wondering if a year or 2 from now, when we've been going out and we should have fallen into this point where we're bored with each other and sunk into some comfortable rut, I'm wondering if you saw me making macaroni and cheese in the kitchen using margarine and water because I'm out of milk and I've got my hair pulled back and straight ends of my hair are falling around my eyes and I'm wearing oversized button-down denim shirt and nothing else. Well, what I'm wondering is if you would see me like this and still think I was sexy. When I glance up and catch your eyes from across the room, when I see your eyes dart away, or when I feel this chemical reaction. Well, what I'm wondering is, do you feel it too? First one, and I'm wondering. This is called Transcribing Dreams 3. Strangest dreams. I was walking into your living room and there was this 10-gallon fish tank there. You had just bought it. You were looking at the fish. That's when I walked over. And I saw a shark fish in the tank, one about 8 inches long. And he was at the bottom killing and eating a 4-inch fish. And there were other 1-inch fish swimming around at the top, neon tetras, small things. And I walked over, and the shark was just eating this 4-inch fish. And as soon as he was completely gone, it was just gone. And you were just looking at this thing. There was nothing you could do to save the fish. And then another 4-inch fish came out from hiding from behind a plant on the left side of the tank, and he darted around. It looked like he was in a state of panic. Maybe he breathed the blood of his other 4-inch fish, his ally, his family. And he started darting around the tank, and the shark was just sitting at the bottom of the tank, at the other side of this tank, at the other side of this tank, sorry. And the other 4-inch fish then just darted more, and then the shark just opened his mouth, and in a darting panic, the 4-inch fish swam straight into the shark's mouth. All he had to do was close his mouth and swallow the fish whole. There was no fight, like with the first one. There was no struggle. And I looked over at you, and you were just amazed that this shark just ate your 2 fish, which probably cost over $10 each, and that they just didn't all get along in the tank together. And I looked at the tank, and I saw the Winch neon tetras darting around along the top of the water. They knew that they would be victims later, trapped in this little cage, and the shark would just wait until he was bored, until he administered his punishment. I wanted to ask you why you bought all these different sized fish and expected them to all live together peacefully. Maybe you didn't even realize that the shark would need more food than he was prepared to buy him. And besides, a shark that size shouldn't even be alone in a tank as small as 10 gallons. He needs room to grow. But before I said anything, I saw the shark swim to the top of the water, push his head and nose out from the water, open the lid to the top of the aquarium. You weren't looking, so I told you to look over at the top and not to get too close. And the shark just sat there, looking at you, and it looked as if he wanted to show you what a good eater he was. It was almost as if he was looking to you for approval.
Yeah.
And the last one, which actually has a parade theme for you, is a piece called The One at Mardi Gras. I was at Mardi Gras last weekend, and I got a bunch of beads from parades. And no, I didn't lift my shirt for them. And a friend of mine had a balcony on Bourbon Street, and so we were all on it on Friday night, and the swarms of people stretched for over a mile. It was a mob. No one could walk, and the crowd just kind of carried them along. And all the men expected women to get naked for them for beads. And from my balcony, I could see every few minutes a series of flash pops coupled with a roar from the crowd. And I knew that a woman lifted her shirt for the screaming masses. I refused, however, to strip for drunk strangers when I knew they all expected me to, being on a balcony and all. So men would look at me up there with their arms stretched out, looking up at me inquisitively as if to ask for me to either give them beads or for me to strip. And since I wasn't stripping and I had plenty of my own beads, I decided to turn the tables and see if these men would accept the same conditions they asked of these women. So when they'd look up at me for something, I would say, "Drop your pants!" And they would look at me confused because the women are the ones that are supposed to be stripping. But in general, I got two responses from the men. Either they would look at me like I was crazy and walk away, or else they would just shrug as if to say, "Okay," and they'd start unzipping their pants. And then they'd make a gesture to turn around as if to ask, "Do you want to see my butt?" And I would yell, "The front!" And so then they'd turn back around with their pants and their underwear at their knees, and then they'd start moving their hips, which was something I never asked for in my life. So over the course of the evening, I managed to get at least 20 men to strip like this for me. And I was amazed that there was this society, this microcosm of society that allowed this kind of debauchery in the streets, a sort of prostitution for plastic beads form of capitalism. So I was reveling in this bizarre annual ritual when this man, average to everyone else, wearing gray and minding his own business, decided to look up at me. So I asked him to drop his pants. And instead of disgustedly leaving or willingly obliging, he crossed both arms on his chest and looked up at me as if to say, "You want me to do what? You naughty, naughty girl." And he smiled and looked up at me, and it occurred to me that I'd finally found someone in this massive crowd that thinks the way I do. Now, New Orleans has a population, from what I hear, of about 1 million. But during Mardi Gras, there are about 9 or 10 million people there. And all I could think was that of all these people here, I finally found someone who wouldn't blindly do what I asked, but at the same time, wouldn't think I was crazy for asking. So, of course, I looked at him, and I also happen to think that he was just stunning, by far the best looking man I had seen that entire night. He looked like he had style, but he was self-confident, and, well, then again, I was nearsighted, and I was on a balcony drunk on Mardi Gras. Well, we hit an impasse when he wouldn't strip, and neither would I, so his attention was eventually diverted to other balconies. But I noticed that for the next half hour, he never left from under my balcony, and every once in a while, he would still turn around and look up at me. boy, I was thinking, this entire time, I know that this is no way to start a relationship. I'm sure that this guy lives nowhere near me, and I haven't even had a real conversation with him, but he's damn near perfect. And all this time, we were just screaming and partying at Mardi Gras, and he would occasionally turn around and make sure that I was still there. And finally, he looked up at me, signaled that he had to move on with his friends, and I held up my index finger, made him wait there while I threw a bunch of beads at him. A part of me threw him because he was a good sport, putting up with my taunting and still not giving in. But a part of me threw the beads because I saw in him strong values and a sense of self-worth, the sheer love of life, the desire to live that I possessed all along and had always been looking for in someone else. So, on the list I remember, did I have to do a little thing? I don't know. Give it up.